This is my garden, doing really great. It's really thriving. This is what you call peak health. And those dead plants that you see everywhere, those are actually by design. You know what? Nobody destroyed this garden. I just kind of got busy and I stopped really giving it what it needed. If that sounds familiar, that's because this is not a garden problem. It's a people problem. And that's what most of us are dealing with. You don't need a new life. You don't need to become somebody else. You just need to return to the basics you stopped making for a long time. Sleep, movement, breathing techniques, small things done consistently, and that will create what's called a shift. It's not a miracle, just life coming back to a neglected body. And if you made it to day 5, it's already started. So let me ask you a question. If a neglected garden begins coming back to life the moment it's cared for, was the problem ever the garden or the absence of the attention that it needed? So that garden that you just saw, a little bit embarrassing. That garden you just saw, oh my God, what a coincidence. I have flowers in the background. It's as if I like flowers. That garden wasn't dead. It wasn't beyond saving. It was just waiting for someone, for something to come back to it to give it some attention. And the moment care returned, what a coincidence. That's how you bring things back to life. Life came back to it. And that is what today is about. It's not about a new plan. It's not about a dramatic overhaul to your entire life, because as a parent, you don't have enough time. We're already stressed out. It's about a decision to stop waiting and to start caring for your own body intentionally. And I know that sounds a little bit quacky, that sounds a little bit cliche to say, but I'm going to share with you a story that made me realize if we're not intentional with our health, for the most part, our body starts to drift and it starts to fall apart. Now, when I was younger, for as long as I can recall, I dealt with chronic lower back pain. Going back to grade 3, I had a back attack, grade 6, grade 8, all of high school, all of college. So when I was younger, I dealt with a horrible lower back. And it started as a small backache. And something I kept telling myself was that it would just kind of go away on its own. But it didn't go away. It actually got to the point where it was crippling. And over time, it started affecting everything I did. My training, my energy, my ability to just move throughout the day without thinking about it. It was at the top of my mind. So I did what most people do. I went to the doctor. And I remember sitting in the office and genuinely hoping that someone was going to give me a solution to this back pain that I had from such a young age. So after a quick examination, the doctor looked at me and he said, "Chris, you have what we call military back." The hell is military back? So he says, your spine is completely straight. It's completely straight. And naturally your spine should have a bit of a curve to it. But he says, your spine is too straight and it's not serious. You just have to rest and avoid doing too much. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, but what am I gonna actually do to get better? So then I asked him, I said, so what am I gonna actually do to get better? So then I asked, and he handed me a list. You ready for this? He handed me a list of things to not do. And that was it. There was no recovery plan. There was no real guidance. There was no follow-up. Just a list of things to not do and a handshake, and I was on my way out. And I remember I left the office more frustrated and more lost than when I had walked in. I had tried other things after that. I remember, and I had tried a lot of other things after that. Different treatments, different approaches, but some helped to get me temporary release, but nothing addressed what was actually going on underneath. And after a while, I started wondering if it was just how life was gonna be. At a young age, you're accepting back pain, that I would just have to manage pain forever instead of actually recovering from it. So that feeling of being
alone, isolated, not really having any options. That feeling of being left alone with a problem and no real path forward, it just stuck with me. But in that experience, it forced me to see something. I had been carrying a belief that I didn't even know I had. I started to think to myself that maybe recovery is only for when things are horrible, for when you're seriously injured or when you're genuinely sick. But up until then, you just have to push through. You just have to manage it. You just have to figure out how to survive. But that's exactly why I kept ending up with back pain. I wasn't taking care of myself up until the point I didn't have a choice. And by then, the damage was already stacking up. That is the pattern that most people are stuck in. They wait until the crash before they decide to recover. They wait until they break down before they decide to rebuild. They wait until the pain gets so loud and exhausting that it demands their attention. And the system that we are raised to trust is built around that same belief. It waits for problems, it waits for you to manage the symptoms, and it tells you what to do, but it doesn't teach you how to actually feel good every single day. And that realization changed everything for me, not just in how I approach my own health, but how I approach every single person that I personally work with. So here's what the science tells us about where you are right now. When your body stays in a chronic state of stress and depletion without real recovery built into your day, your nervous system starts adapting to running on low. And it will literally start to reorganize itself around this survival state. And adaptations are hard to undo once they set in. But here is what most people don't know. Your brain and your body have something called neuroplasticity, which basically means that it can change. It can rewire and it can recover, but only when you give it a state of the right conditions consistently. I'm not talking perfect conditions, I'm talking about consistently. So better sleep can start to improve your brain function within a few days. Reducing your stress will start lowering your baseline cortisol within weeks, and regular movement starts releasing tension in your body, and regular movement will start releasing stored tension that your body has been holding on to for months. And as those things that we just mentioned start to improve, something else will start to happen. Your choices will get easier, your patience will come back, your energy will return, your presence as a father, as a mother, as a parent, it will start to improve. And researchers call this the upward spiral. Small improvements to the states that you're in will lead to better decisions. Better decisions will create better habits, and better habits will create more energy. And what happens if you have more energy is that more energy will create more capacity, and it builds on itself. And that is the big shift. It's not about becoming a brand new person. It's about coming back to the version of yourself that was always there underneath a depleted state. The version of you that feels lost may not be gone. It's just hidden under all of the neglect and stress that you have been going through. And what I want you to believe walking away from these videos is that neglect can be undone, not by force, but by care, by healing, and by recovery. So over the last 4 days, you've built something that most people never have. On day one, you found your gray zone. You know exactly where your energy is leaking. On day two, you built your state lock profile. So you know exactly what states keeps pulling you back. On day three, you completed your feel-good floor assessment. So you know exactly which boulder is dragging you down the most. On day four, you built your personal anchor map, so you know how to stop the drift before it starts taking you way too far. And today, you're going to turn this into a game plan, and it's a plan built around 3 simple phases. There's the reset, the rebuild, and sustain phase. The reset is about stopping the bleeding. It's not about fixing everything at once. It's about identifying the biggest drains and addressing those first. The gray zone scorecard told you exactly where you're leaking the most. The feel-good floor showed you exactly the boulders that are the heaviest, and that is where your reset starts. It's one thing that you can focus on. You can start right now, and you can start this week. The rebuilding phase is about restoring your capacity, and this is where your anchors come in. This is where your evening leaks get fixed. This is where you start rebuilding the rhythm your body can count on. Small, consistent, reliable, and predictable routines, not a perfect routine, but a routine that actually fits into your life. And last, we have the sustain phase. And this is really about protecting all the progress and really guarding everything that you've built and preventing yourself from dropping back into the gray zone. Because remember, the gray zone is always waiting for you. It doesn't attack all at once. It waits until you stop paying attention. And sustain is the commitment to you paying attention, to keep protecting the feel-good floor, to protecting the anchors that you have in place when life gets so chaotic. And this is not what we call willpower. This is rhythm. And to be honest, if I can share with you the most important thing in this challenge, it's the fact that rhythm is what makes the big shift permanent instead of temporary. So today's homework is called your reset, rebuild, and sustain blueprints. And this is your final bit of homework as part of this challenge. And it brings everything that you've done together into one assignment. So what I want you to do this week is to work on a plan. And I want you to answer 3 questions, okay? Reset. What is the one thing you are going to do first this week based off of everything that you have discovered? 2, rebuild. What is the one anchor that you are going to commit to? And what small fixes are you making to protect that feeling? And lastly, number 3 is your sustain. I want you to ask yourself, what does your feel-good floor look like when it's working? So you're gonna write this down. I want you to write all 3 because when you finish, you will have something that most people never build. And it's a personal plan for coming back to life and staying there just like the garden. So this is your reset, rebuild, and sustain blueprints, okay? And that is your big shift plan. Take it to the community, post it in the day 5 thread, and tell us where you're starting and what you're building and what you're gonna do to protect all these recovery gains that you're making. Because here is what I want you to know. This challenge was never a 5-day piece of content. It was 5 days of discovery. And now that you have your map and now that you have your plan, the real work honestly begins at this point. This is exactly what this school community was built for. 3 rooms, we have the reset, the rebuild, and the sustain classrooms. Everything that you need to keep going is already waiting for you in those classrooms. The resources, the support, a community of people doing the exact same thing that you're working on right now. And as always, if you are someone that wants to work one-on-one, you want personalized support, you're looking at your maps and you want that customized approach to this program that we have here, you want to figure out how do you customize your gray zone? How do you customize your state lock map? How do you customize your feel-good floor? How do you customize your anchors and your blueprints? All of it, I want to close with this. I spent the last years waiting for someone to hand me these solutions that I discovered the hard way, and waiting for the right treatments, waiting for the right advice, waiting for the right moments to start taking care of myself. And what I learned is that moments never come on their own. You have to make the decision and you have to choose it. And you already did. 5 days ago, you decided to show up here and you could have scrolled past this. You could have told yourself that you were too busy. But you came back every single day. And that's not nothing. This is the garden getting watered after a long time of being neglected. And once care returns, life follows. Not at once, and it's not a big dramatic moment, but day by day, small consistent wins. That's how you come back, and not by becoming somebody else, but by finally deciding that you are worth the money, the sacrifice, the efforts. And that is what the big shift is all about, and that starts today.